UWITV now presents the St. Augustine Campus Council Meeting 2020 under the theme Perseverance.
I am Sharon Christopher, Chair of the UWI St. Augustine Campus Council, and I will be moderating today's proceedings. Unlike previous years, this session is being done in a virtual format as we continue to monitor all developments surrounding the global coronavirus pandemic. Our thoughts are with those at home here in Trinidad and Tobago and those around the world who have been affected by this virus. While the campus is closed and classes have been suspended, our members of staff continue to work remotely to ensure that critical work continues and that we are prepared for all possibilities. An important part of this work includes the hosting of mission-critical events like today's meeting. However, ensuring health and safety now means taking actions that aim to limit exposure of the members of our campus community and by extension, our families to the virus, like imposing social distancing and generally elevating preventative hygiene practices. Adjustments are a big part of life, and we have been called, like so many around the world, to rise to the occasion in the midst of this pandemic. In this regard, the theme of this year's annual report is fitting. The theme, Perseverance, highlights the campus's resilience in the face of challenges and setbacks. The publication's cover art also incorporates a mural which symbolizes hope and a reason to persist in the midst of a time when people, institutions, and entire countries are under dire straits. As we meet today to review the past year, we will become even more cognizant of our tradition of supporting one another during times of need, and I am confident that we will continue to pull together as this most recent challenge unfolds. Council meetings are a fundamental aspect of the accountability of the UWI. As Council Chair, my role is to preside over today's meeting in accordance with the university statutes and ordinances. We will be given an account of the performance of the St. Augustine campus over the 2018 to 2019 academic year through the presentation of the annual report by the Pro-Vice Chancellor and Campus Principal, Professor Brian Copeland.
Thank you, Campus Chair, Campus Council Chair, good morning, Vice Chancellor, University Registrar, my colleagues at the St. Augustine campus, some of whom are with me, to our colleagues at Campus Council, members alike. It's my pleasure to present to you the annual report for the St. Augustine campus for the year 2018 to 19 to 20. So as Campus Council Chair indicated, we chose the theme Perseverance for today's presentation. It is a bit of a serendipity. This was chosen long before we came under the dark days that prevail today. As I told the Guild President this morning, the days are very dark, but this is when we have to shine the brightest. So we take this as a sign of hope going forward. Certainly we will come out of this stronger, even as it is shaping the way in which we conduct our affairs. And she did explain as well that the drawing and the painting that was used was done by our students at the St. Anne's Mental Hospital Children's Ward. So it's here to give a sign of hope, a signal of hope, some motivation to those kids. Young people helping young people. I'd like to start looking at the picture of success for the future. I always like to do this because if we have to get anywhere, we must link on and connect to some distant star. Hopefully it's not that distant. And this picture of success is related to the UN Strategic Development Goals and speaks of the development of resilient and robust citizens that are competent, physically strong, mentally strong, able to survive the worst of times and to come out of those times building productive lives when things normalize. And again, that signals the situation we are in today. We're looking at building a mature social culture, one that eliminates all of the current ills, such as crime, social exclusion, the income gap divide, and discrimination. We are looking at building climate smart citizens, empowered to preserve the environment. We look Great. So we successfully bridged that gap, and we can move on now to talking about building our resilient citizens, building climate smart citizens, and building that innovative culture. All these align to the UN Strategic Development Goals and to the visions that have been set by various governments, including the government of Trinidad and Tobago in its Vision 2030 plans. As far as St. Augustine is concerned, this is how we make our contribution to reaching this target. We have decided to look at our curriculum and pedagogical processes. And in that reform procedures, in those reform initiatives, we will move to complete that initiative to deliver the graduate who is empowered to meet the challenge of building the new, we call it Caribbean. I have here the reference to academic siloing, and it's simply because the way the university has grown, every faculty is almost a house unto itself. Although, happily, I'm seeing that changing as time goes on, particularly in the last couple of years. And we're speaking of continual alignment to market demands. This is our educational agenda. What about research and development and innovation? That agenda must be aligned to Caribbean needs, to global outreach, empowering the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem for economic, social, and ecological revitalization. And the reference there to economic, social, and ecological systems ties in directly again with the UN Strategic Development Goals. That is our innovation agenda. To support all this, we have to ensure that the rest of the campus, the supporting elements, bursarial, registration, and the like, all come together to work more efficiently and effectively to enable and empower the necessary transformation and transition that will help the UWI make its maximum possible contribution to building this new society. We need infrastructure that soundly supports educational and RDI thrust. We need an environment that is non-threatening and provokes creative thought. We must remember in all of this that it's not just, teaching does not occur just in the classroom. The very environment in which you are placed helps to nurture the mind and create that sort of creativity and thinking that helps us to burst bubbles that has defined the current state of affairs. We need a work environment that is fair, less uncertain, and certainly much more inclusive. So let's speak to making an impact, and I have a very short video here. you appreciated my composition as much as I did. I'd like to thank the Marketing and Communication Department for putting that together. We must speak to some of the other pointed achievements, as I call them. We had some new leadership. Some of this overlaps into the previous year. Welcome again to Ms. Sharon Christopher, who took the lead last year as Campus Council Chair. To Dr. Dawn Marie DeFougill, our first woman campus registrar, and the first time I think at Campus Council. Welcome, Dawn. Congratulations.
As registrar.
I'm sorry, what did I say? And to Professor Stephen Giff, who was appointed new PVC of Graduate Studies and Research, and among the deanship, Dr. Akola Lewis Cameron, Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences. We had as well, jumping ahead, some national awardees that had close ties with, and continue to have close ties with the University of West Indies. Mr. Ewart Williams, who was the last chair of Campus Council, was awarded Checonia Medal Gold by the Trinidad and Tobago government, as was Dr. Waverly Charles for her work in hematology and as director of the National Transfusion Service. Dr. Ian Anthony Hippolyte, who is from the Faculty of Medical Sciences, received the Hummingbird Medal Silver for his work in sports administration, athletics and psychiatry. Many might remember Dr. Lester Ifubo Wilkinson. I worked with him some time back, who received the Public Service Medal of Merit Award for his work in the public service, but he was as well connected to us as a former lecturer in theatre arts. And one of our students, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, received Guyana's Golden Arrow of Achievement. He's a student of the Department of Food Production. Congratulations to them all. We had 4 new professors in Dr. Wayne Gampat, who's now Professor Wayne Gampat, who is Dean of the Faculty of Agriculture, Dr. Rohan Maharaj, now Professor Rohan Maharaj, Dr. Michelle Maiku, now Professor Maiku, and Dr. Laura Roberts Nkrumah, known as the Breadfruit Lady, who is now Professor Nkrumah. Congratulations to them all. We welcomed as well the full suite of our professors of practice, Mr. Andrew Jupiter, Mr. Winston Duperan, Mr. Jerry Brooks, and Dr. Stilling Frost. And this Professor of Practice initiative has worked quite well for this campus. We wait to look at the whole report coming from the University of the West Indies. We had a new Guild leadership. You must never forget that the Guild is Guild members are school students are members of the university community, and the Guild is an important part defined by statute. And here we have Mr. Justin Subaru, the current Guild president, being sworn in with his executive. Some other highlights. We have been pushing the innovation on entrepreneurship drive for quite some time. We have been looking at what mechanisms do we have for exploiting our research and development. I was quite pleased to sign this first license agreement with Lake Asphalt, who were looking to commercialize 2 of our products. These are superior asphalt-based products. One is a plastic cement, the other a primer. And we have been working closely with them to ensure that production goes well. My last report is in fact that indeed that is the case. We moved into Cougar Hospital. As of January 2020, we started teaching optometry in the teaching facility to the back of the hospital, a huge facility. And we'll soon be looking at pharmacy and nursing as the next 2 programs to move into the teaching facility as well. That hospital, incidentally, was activated last June and is now playing a key role under the COVID, I call it the COVID attack. Caribbean Airlines, we developed an app for them to the Department of Electrical Engineering. The young people you see, most of them young, at the bottom are either students who were interns at CAL or actually graduates from the department who worked at CAL. That team worked together to create this app that some of you may have used already for booking and checking in and so on. In the top picture there you see Mr. Madera, the CEO of CAL, the little pudgy guy on his right is me, of course, and the head of department, Dr. Fazil Mudin, and his lecturer, Mr. Akash Paransi. Was pleased to partner with TSTT and Huawei, more than pleased, because they are building putting in $30 million into an innovation lab. And this was an initiative that was started by the last dean, Professor Stephen Gift, and escalated a bit after his departure. Things changed, and now the contribution is some US $2 million. And we see the representatives from TSTT, Mr. Walcott and Mr. Jeff Jin on the right, in that image, looking over a mock-up of the lab. This is a pre-existing structure that is now seeing its best use through this investment. I'm happy to say as well that on the second floor of that structure, we are actually, we have a resident company that is working to create apps for Google. We're about to sign off an MOU with them right now, and this is a clear example of university-industry partnership. So this entire building, at the end of the day, all 3 floors, this is what we used to call the high voltage lab, which never served as a high voltage lab, will be put to full use in our industry engagement. Congratulations to the Faculty of Engineering. I was pleased to visit the University of Coventry and sign on behalf of the Vice Chancellor an MOU that looks to establish full collaboration between the 2 universities, but also is the seed for the creation of a UWI Coventry Center here on this campus. We're still going through the logistics of setting that up, but it was a very interesting engagement because Coventry has been doing a lot of work with industry, and we had a lot of takeaways. This is Jerry Brooks and Mr. Julian Henry from our entrepreneurship unit, who traveled to Coventry with me. So we're looking to see good fruit coming from this engagement, certainly going forward. And last year, we launched an associate degree and a master's degree in science and petroleum engineering. And that is the last Vice Chancellor, Iflo, is there with me signing off. I'm going to sign it already and showing it off to the world, Iflo Griffith. So this again shows how we engage the world in extending access in education. We have been in Guyana for quite some time, but we have never been, we've never partnered fully at this level with the University of Guyana as we did with this degree. So it's a first for us. Previous to this, Guyana was basically the University of Guyana was the place where we went to deliver courses. And through IGLO's assistance and discussions with the Dean of Engineering, congratulations to them, we were able to go to the level where it's now a joint program being offered. And we've been playing with the technology quite successfully, engaging students, going live with students. I went through 2 sessions last year. UWI Live Chat was one of them, where we spoke to students and dealt with their concerns, answered questions about different aspects of university life. I found it quite rewarding in terms of not just the feedback that we got from students, but certainly in terms of the discussion, which I thought was richer than I've ever engaged in on this campus thus far. And it's truly a testament to the power of the technology once it is used correctly. Our deputy principal is responsible for a lot of the student matters, particularly as regards to student life on this campus. And I've listed here a few of the achievements over the year. As far as policies are concerned, we have to be very carefully with the first one. Policy for procedures to be followed on the death of a student was formerly called the death policy, student death policy. So we picked that up very quickly and changed it. Approval of a policy for risk management of challenging behaviors by students. This deals with identifying signals that might indicate that something is wrong and that perhaps the student needs to be referred to higher level counseling. And we have some procedures that we developed in that vein. We have been using the Student Amenities Fund for I think it's 2 years right now. And we engaged in 3 years now. And we've engaged in several projects that are listed here. See a couple of slides on that in a minute. Renovation expansion of the Student Activity Center. So that, in fact, signals that we're using as a means to at least deal with the upkeep of those areas that are of direct, that provide direct support to students. Construction of a network of paved walkways. I congratulate the Amenities Fund Committee and Deputy Principal in particular for doing this, because it's a long time that this has been needed. Installation of 8 rain shelters, same applies here. So let's have a very long walk from the north of campus to the first shelter. This provides some means of coverage, if you like, along that very long walkway that runs from the old entrance down to the lawn tennis court. 41 high quality water dispensers. We are moving to rid ourselves of single-use plastic containers. As you've seen in a while, and this is one means of encouraging students to bring their glass bottles and the like to get the water that they need. We purchased a bus for the disabled that is housed with our unit. Upgrade of the Freedom Hall multi-purpose room. Pretty proud of that one because I came from Freedom Hall myself, but certainly it was much in need of repair. It's a lovely building that certainly was in need of upgrade. Furniture for the Freedom Hall multi-purpose room as well. Wi-Fi upgrade for Faculty of Engineering, upgrade of lighting and surface restoration at the tennis court. So some of these, just to give you a pictorial image of what these achievements are, just to say that we are spending the money quite well, I think. There is one of the shuttle buses on the left, computer purchases, the water dispensers, they came in only just recently. This is to encourage climate smart behavior. The washing machines and dryers for the halls, equipment for the gym, and on the bottom right is one of the shelters that I spoke of earlier. Lovely design. It seems quite strong. We thought it'd flip over the first breeze, but it stood up very, very well. And students have been using it. They're quite appreciative of what has been done. Let's look at the current state of the campus. Our student enrollment reached 17,000 last year, 11,270 undergrads, 5,000 postgraduates, 657 what we call undeclared, as well as doing certificate diploma courses and the like. Graduation, we had 2,000, almost 3,000 undergrads, 1,300 plus postgrad, a total of 4,252 students graduated from our campus in 2019. Staff-wise, I think these figures, I have to correct it, but it shows 2782, and the correction I made for this is something like 3,700. 3,711 is the total for our staff. I think the part-time numbers are quite low. So that's the power that we use to get to where we want to. But we have been getting some challenges. We have seen 3 years of budget declines, and government subventions have remained unchanged for quite some time, some 3 years. The receivables are greater than 700 million as of July 2019, and our funding model seems quite frankly not to be working. The University of West Indies as a whole is simply working assiduously to address this particular challenge, that issue of the funding model. There is a lack of liquidity. In 2017, we went through 7 months where the subventions from government were way below what they were supposed to be. As a consequence, we had to dig into our reserves. We had at that time had a lot of plans for using the reserves, the least of which would have been the strategic planning exercise, strategic initiatives that we had already identified. Those reserves, as I've explained to staff in the past, were what would have been used to pay back pay at the time. However, the union had not settled. They now have settled, and the outstanding back pay is of the order of $131.6 million. Salary increase on an annual basis, $19.5 million. We have been discussing this issue of the back pay with the government, and certainly, at least prior to the COVID crisis that we're facing, they were certainly supportive of providing us with the funding to enable us to pay that back pay. We have to follow up on that given what has happened over the last couple of days. South campus authorization, we estimate to be $20 million per annum, and we've held discussions with government on that, and they keep on guiding us on looking at different mechanisms by which we can, in fact, get the support that we require to the tune of the $20 million or so. Campus security remains a challenge. The upgrade of that campus security, that includes everything from cameras to access points, gates and the like, we estimate to be about $25 million. This is for the infrastructure, part of which we understand is a little bit outdated. It's still useful but outdated. And of course, we are engaging in ongoing cost reduction strategies. Certainly have to compliment deans for the efforts they have made in trying to reduce the costs of running the campus. This is a sort of breakdown of what's owed by governments across the region, most of it from Trinidad and Tobago government. And I need to explain to those who either do not know, may have forgotten, that the arrangement with governments is that the subventions are based on the number of students that they have on the campus. So if, for example, a government has 0 students, 0 citizens who are students on this campus, there's no subvention expected from them. The Trinidad and Tobago government pays something like 92% of our subvention requirements, because that is that's roughly the percentage of Trinidad and Tobago citizens, excuse me, who are on this campus. So we're short of $107 million as far as subvention is concerned. The gate remains a challenge. It slides quite a lot. We are back on gate payments, I think, back to 3 years or more. But the quantum is of the order of $190. Scholarships, we're also behind $192 million. PSIP projects, that's public sector investment program projects. Government supports the campus not just through subventions, but every now and again when there's a major project to be undertaken, we could approach them and they would typically fund those projects using PSIP projects. And because of the challenges to the government, these have also fallen behind, as are VAT refunds. We know the government is trying its best to provide the support that's necessary, and certainly has been very challenged with the change in our fortunes, that's the change in the fortune of Trinidad and Tobago. But we certainly, at least at this current time, have some indication, strong indication that they're working well with us, the intention to work well with us to sort out our challenges, and even as we meet our mandates. So let's talk about the new strategic emphasis. We started our strategic plan for 2017 to 2022, given a very, very powerful name. It's called AAA for short, but it's Access, Alignment, and Agility. And we developed a whole set of plans and initiatives based on that direction that was given to us in 2017. In August of last year, we regrouped, that's roughly midterm, in the strategic plan. And out of it came a new direction, not totally new, but I call it a refinement of the direction of the AAA strategy that speaks to what UWI will look like in the next 2 years. And the Vice Chancellor has described this as the 5 planks upon which the university will rest in the next 2 years. We would like to see a digital UWI. That is one where our systems and processes are all based on the technology, leveraging all of the efficiencies and effectiveness that comes with it, and avoiding all the pitfalls that may come with it as well. We're looking at a multilingual UWI, one where our students in particular, when they leave, could master certainly more than their base language, have at least one other language under their belt, because certainly we see our students having to engage the world as they seek to build their own careers. We're talking about climate smart UWI that is respectful and certainly in a full acknowledgement of the need for us to take care of our ecology. We are currently one of the global leaders, I'm sure others would say, in climate action and advocacy. And I'll speak to that in a moment. We're speaking about entrepreneurial UWI under a UWI corporate brand. And there are different sort of perspectives on this. One of them, most significant, and certainly one I sort of hold in high regard, is a UWI that supports the revitalization of the economies of the entire Caribbean. And in doing so also ensures that it operates in an effective, efficient way and has a much more robust financial base. And that speaks to the whole issue of governments and government support. We have been speaking for a long time about weaning the university off of government. I don't see that happening 100%, but certainly, and the Vice Chancellor has spoken it in terms of the 10 and 2 strategy, which is on the next slide, getting an agreed position as far as what government contributions will be. But we will have to do our part in making sure that we make up the difference to realize all of the initiatives that we come up with over time. And then I think this is probably the most important one, at Global UWI, through UWI Global Online. I've made the point to many in the past, and we've gotten accusations, criticisms about us UWI saturating the market, particularly when you speak of the medical fraternity and the like. Yes, the market is saturated, that's one way of looking at it. The other way to look at it is that, well, we've done our job. We've been asked to educate students, and we've done so. In a society that is this small, we were bound to reach some point where, particularly in professions that are high in demand, we would have reached a point where there is what people call saturation. For us, that is just a signal that we have done our job very well, that we need to do something else. Because it's not good to have a student leaving the University of West Indies and not finding the job that they thought that they would be prepared for. So what we're doing is several things, and one of them is saying, well, first of all, we have developed all of these skills, and all of these capabilities. We've been around for 70 years. We started in medicine, so that's our oldest experience, if you like. Well, we can now turn that experience to include global education, and that is where we're going. That is where UWI Global Online is going. We have to do that if we have to survive. At the same time, we are looking at how best do we prepare students to adjust as they leave the university when they graduate. Some will go abroad. How do we make sure they are also well taken care of? Wherever our students are, wherever our graduates are, they must be as well prepared as possible. So, speaking of the 5 plans, I will just repeat this slide. This was the 10 and 2 strategy, and made the point that while we're speaking of cutting expenditures by 10%, that is really speaking to a readjustment in the way in which we spread our resources, making the necessary efficiency initiatives, implementing various efficiency initiatives to get a 10% effective reduction in those areas, but using those free resources now to support the growth areas for the University of West Indies. Our deans at St. Augustine have been moving to rationalize their academic programs. We will be meeting with them very shortly to discuss the budget for the next year based on their assessment of their different academic sub-enterprises, I call it. We are looking to adopt a robust outsourcing method to target non-core expenditures, and certainly we've seen that over the last few years. And we're looking to dive deeper into the use of ICT to stimulate cost reductions and savings. We're doing that now, albeit challenged as it is. I think the worldwide network is working against us. So let's talk about our trajectory for survival and success, which is really where I wanted to get to. We've spoken a bit about what we've done for the year, and certainly the university has done very well over the year. We've seen the achievements. We've done some really, really great things, I would think. To me, the top one for me was us leading the initiative to name 2 planets that we could never see in our lifetime. That is for all time. That's for our children, grandchildren, and way beyond that. And I don't think the significance of that has really sunk into the local citizenry. And we've spoken as well about well, it's interesting, hitching on to a star, which is our future. And we describe what that future is. And it is absolutely essential that we describe that trajectory for survival and success. Success means we reach to that end point, or put ourselves on the path for reaching that end point. We have to, of course, survive before we get there. First of all, if you look at the CPR and the RDI strategy I spoke of earlier, you'll see from this that and the support systems, they're mapped out 35 plans that are defined by the Vice Chancellor, as well as the 10 and 2 strategy. And we did a matching matrix, if you like, to show this is the case. And however, it means that we'll be more focused on these 5 plans and the 10 and 2 strategy going forward as we engage those strategies. With respect to CPR, we've done quite a lot. We've done some resetting of the direction as well. And we're now focused on creating a process map of what we call the academic enterprise. And the terminology, I think, has been used elsewhere, but certainly not used quite a lot at the University of West Indies. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I used the word academic enterprise 10 years ago, I would have been kicked out of UWI because of the culture at the time. The culture happily is changing. Course and program rationalization, I spoke about that. Need to finalize and define and identify certain strategies to treat with. Well, this whole issue of the underserved was described in our AAA strategic plan. And we briefly point out, asked the question, well, who are the underserved? How do you define them? I'll speak a little bit about that later because we define a little bit what that means, but you can guess. But the point here is that once you have identified them, we have to look at recruitment strategies that are focused on that. We may have to look at focused delivery depending on the composition of who the underserved are. And we have to look at tracking as they go through the system. I submit that these are things we should have been doing all along in any case. So under CPR, we are looking at increased use of technology for delivery and assessment. Happy to say that as of next Monday, yesterday we met with the deans in particular, and they assured me that on next Monday we will have a much increased online presence as far as course delivery is concerned. The date March 23rd was stated by many a dean. I think some are starting earlier as of this week. Currently, campus has 34 courses, 34% of its courses online. As far as the entrepreneurial trust is concerned, we are looking at several initiatives, but we need to adjust programs, and many have already started to adjust the delivery to include some discussion, some engagement on entrepreneurship. But we also have to look at how do we motivate creativity. We are building, as you will see, and as I've spoken of before, an entrepreneurial ecosystem. It requires, I define it as a pipeline of ideas coming forward. It would be most embarrassing if the campus started at that pipeline empty. It wouldn't be this embarrassing to me, but how can you have a campus that doesn't have ideas, for which even 10% of the ideas created can't be ideas that have potential for entrepreneurial activity, for commercialization. So the motivation creativity is something that we're playing with. Faculty of Humanities has engaged a university in Finland that does exactly this, and we're looking to move into that this year. We're adjusting programs to include the language component. That discussion has started. There are some challenges. I understand speaking to the director of the CLL as well in doing it, but there are challenges I think we can overcome. Going global, we will have to certainly use the technology to increase our online offerings. And I think this is something where we can achieve maximum growth with the assistance of our sister campuses. We are a support center. We have support. We will support the center initiatives. For climate change, and certainly you'll see that the university is leading in this regard. We've been set as the lead university by the UN to address the whole issue of climate change. This is a sample of the process map. It's not put for any reason to confuse anybody, but it's to show where we're going. This gives you a one-shot view, single snapshot of what your processes are. The major processes on there, the arrows just show how they are linked. One of the key things about this is that you can now plug your KPIs on there much more comfortably. You can look at this map and you can tell where your gaps are. So for example, we can tell you, let me just change my pen here a bit. There's a laser pointer, there it is. All right. I can tell you that this block here, which is a unit that does a deep dive into what are we putting out as a graduate, what is the characteristic of the graduate, does the graduate meet what we define as institutional outcomes, which is the ideal graduate, some of them are listed there. What about the academic component? It does a deep dive into that, and it looks at the reference that is based upon what we define. It says you have to define everything your graduate must be, all of the attributes that you want to put in, that you want your graduates to have, you must define them in every detail. The academic part, the part that comes from society at large, including the whole issue of let me blow this up so you can see it. There we go. All right, the institutional outcomes, all right, that are there. These are the attributes of the ideal graduate that were defined by the university: critical and creative thinker, effective communicator, IT skill, etc. And the last one is not on the list of attributes, but it summarizes the academic competence that certainly would require of a graduate. That has to be defined. And once you define it, it now has to be measured. This is beyond the academic measurement, which are the exams that we give. There are tests, and I've spoken to the ministries about this, there are tests that will help us do this, but certainly we have to construct some better tools. And to just end here by saying that we've looked around the world, those few attributes are difficult to measure because of what they are. It's hard to put a number on it. However, there are tests that similar to the GSAT in Australia that claim that they can measure these attributes very effectively. Now, if that is so, then it means that when a student enters the university, we can probably administer that test. And then when they leave the university, you can also administer the test, and you can now determine how the student has improved throughout their tenure here as a student at the University of the West Indies. I understand that that test could also be applied in high school. So now for ministries of education, there is a tool that goes beyond the normal academic assessment that says, what are your educational gains? How much investment are you making in the school system? And are students really seeing the benefit of it along the lines that we have agreed upon? So I think this is significant. I've spent some time on it. It is where we have to go as a university because we are the #1 in the region, and we have to have a #1 engagement when it comes to our prime mandate. Let's look at some more of the processes. We have to support the CPR initiative. We have seen issues and challenges in capturing students as early as possible. This is the perennial cry of the deputy principal. And we have to facilitate that. So we're looking at how do we change our process that includes some ICT transformation, some change in the actual process itself, almost a forgetting of the old processes, in order to make sure we capture students as quickly as possible. We've had a lot of complaints from students. I heard Barbados talking about this, I can't remember the venue, but this came up in a discussion with a couple of my colleagues at Cable, about students complaining about that whole process of onboarding. We will be going to the Banner 9 transition as of November 2020. It will be complete. We'll get a full conversion in February. The initial conversion in February, and we'll have the full digital application process completed by November. One of the components, I think it's in Banda, but certainly we may be looking at other tools here, is applicant relationship management. That speaks to the first point I brought up before. That is, somebody sits with the student almost as they apply, keeps checking every now and again to make sure that things are all right and that they are not falling off the grid. Critically, discussions with our planning office about the increased use of metrics, increased focus on use of metrics in the entire system. That ties back to the process map. And by the way, we'll be, over time, we'll be process mapping all of the systems, every single one. There's some that exist. I understand OIEI, or International Office, has a process map for their systems. So we'll be tying all those together. It could get complicated to look at them all at once, of course, but there's a way in which you can organize it so that it makes sense. I&E, done very well. We've moved along this path very well. You would see from the video that we have created our UWI Ventures, which is the portal by which projects coming out of UWI will be commercialized. It is outside UWI, away from the bureaucracy of UWI, a little bit more agile, and certainly much more capable of doing that. We are, the major initiative right now is creating an inventory of projects, a project database, using available tools that will help us to track a project from first concept through project evolution, which is, if it's hardware that you're developing, for example, prototyping of the hardware, all the funds that are applied, all the resources that are applied to it, as it comes through system and you get to the proof of concept, all the way to launch, you have that whole that tracking mechanism that looks at the entire history of the project, again, from point zero to the point where it's about to be launched and then into UWI Ventures. Different people playing different roles at different times. So deans could see where their money is being invested, campus could see where funds are being invested and what other resources are being put in it. Later on, when investors come, they could look at the project and see what is happening with it and so on. So this is an all-in-one tool that does it. It turns out that we were going to do this internally and then found that It's a tool that's already used in the commercial sector, and we have identified that tool. I think it's called Startup. I'm sorry, I'll correct that later. But we found that tool, and we will be looking to implement it by the end of April. So that database is the critical activity right now, but the next one will be ensuring that the faculties are well set now to populate the database and also to activate those projects going forward. We have formed in the last year or so the two companies. We approved two companies for launch. One is to commercialize more of the products coming out of chemistry, the asphalt-based products that they have. There are about 8 of them. Would you believe that we've been trying to get the name approved? Last night I spoke to our lawyer. She said she's kind of at a limit with it because they keep rejecting the names that we put. So that's all that's stopping us from fully launching the company. And the second one is to commercialize our cocoa intellectual property through the International Fine Cocoa initiative that is under Prof. Umar Arhan. That was approved at the last FNGPC, so we're looking to see those come to light. I don't want to put this up. This is in our, I think this is now in your package. It's called Footprints. It's a document called Footprints, and we have a lot of the stats that are not in this to digest. We've been looking to apply these metrics, so this is our test, if you like, of how to look at and use these metrics. Some work still to be done, but this one is for RDI, and it covers the number of patents and licenses we've generated. Interesting, that bar graph on the top right that speaks to the number of sponsored grants that were completed last year, 10 of them, and that's sponsored grant projects. And IP protection requests, which reached all-time high the year before, 19, and was down to 17 requests last year. Interestingly, out of the 19 or so requests, only one was approved, and I believe this year another one was approved out of the 17 requests. What is disappointing is on the bottom right, in 2017, 2018, the last year we have data for the number of research publications in ranked referee journals per full-time academic staff was 0.77, up from the previous year, but certainly it shows that we need to do a lot more in improving the research output of staff. Financial processes, I spoke to a while back about what the deans are doing. It follows an ABC costing that was done by the bursary, expanded by the bursary among all units, that give us a better sense as to how the faculties operate on a financial basis. And it is using the output of that the deans will come to us to speak about cost adjustments, about improving efficiencies in their respective academic enterprises. We have completed a lot of the work in FMS in terms of developing business plans, and I think that is on a slide later on in more detail. But certainly the schools of veterinary medicine, dentistry, and nursing are all developing plans, and a lot of those plans deal with the whole issue of attracting foreign students. We do have a challenge in practicing medical sciences. We do have to ensure that it survives. And as I said before, we develop all that skill, it'd be a shame to waste it. So let's turn it to the global education arena. And then also the UWI Global School of Medicine, which will be discussed at this afternoon session. This is the medical education artery that refers to, that speaks to the FMS strategy for going forward. It just so happens that the 3 points in which the FMS will now engage all lie along the Solomon Troy Highway. So it means that you have easy access from Mount Hope in the north to Couva in central and Debe in the south. Debe is where we will be situating our UWI Global School of Medicine. At the Couva facility, we will be housing the Advanced School of Advanced Nursing, which will be relocated there to train local and foreign students, and also, of course, the schools of optometry and pharmacy. And at Mount Hope, we will be continuing to develop, to offer the MBBS program to support national replacement needs. But certainly, I'm looking forward to schools of dentistry and vet med to lead the charge in shaping their programs to attract foreign students. This is the Couva facility, an aerial shot. it's quite a large and expansive facility. But I said before, the hospital is going to play a role in this COVID, in this under the COVID pandemic response of Trinidad and Tobago. But way in the back is a teaching facility that UWI will be occupying. This is, if you drive on the Solomon Motorway Highway, you will see this lovely site at night. UWI is well represented here. Down in the south, I'm proud to say that we think we have everything in place to start up in September of this year, and I'll lock the table on that one. But this is a very recent shot of the academic building down in Debe. It's pretty much ready. And by the way, we've got the ACTT approval to do this. That's why we're very sure that we can proceed. This is a view of the auditorium, which was previously the moot court, a view facing forward. All of the classes at Debe are fully equipped with the latest ICT equipment. It allows for flexible classes. It allows for class overflow. It allows for students to take their classes online because it was designed with online delivery in mind. It's designed to deliver even to St. Augustine and vice versa. So theoretically, a lecturer could stand in this room and in any room at Debe and deliver to students up at St. Augustine or in their homes. So that was the design that we used there. And we did it at pretty good cost, I have to say. Climate Smart Campus, lots of different initiatives, and the UWI principal has championed this. So the issue of single-use plastic, using rainwater to flush toilets and so on, paper-free meetings. This last proposal is one we have to look at, but certainly sounds like a good idea. Just planting trees at the South Campus and at Orange Grove. And there's a commercial potential there, especially in the South, where you can plant a good forest of tea trees, and you might benefit from it a few years later. On the right, let me just blow this up for you. So there you go. Right. So this was in the Jamaica Observer not too long ago, and the headline says UWI selected to lead climate smart world. And this is what earlier I said that we will be working closely with Center on this initiative, and this is what I'm talking about. And it shows our well-respected Vice Chancellor there, with members of the International Association of Universities, including Professor Pam Fredman, who will be working with us on this. UWI has been chosen to lead this group going forward. We are leading this group. This is an international group in terms of treating with the whole issue of the achievement of a climate smart world. And I have to say, as young people say, big up UWI for that one, because it really puts us in among the pack. HR processes, we have a lot to do on this campus with HR, and those of you who have seen the protests recently from media staff will realize we'll listen deeper than the cries that we've been. You understand that a lot of it is coming from long-standing pressures and challenges that they're facing, and a lot of it has to do with HR in particular. So we're about fostering this caring, accountable, motivated UWI professional, called the camp team, and the director of HR and her team has laid out a schedule that will look at leadership development. Culture change initiatives are a very tough one. Key policies and programs, workplace instability, bullying, which is one of the main problems that our ATS staff complain about. Enhanced health and wellness program. That last one is key, is a critical one for this campus, because we are not at all happy with what we're seeing in terms of the fallout in health among our staff. The second bullet, we had a retreat not too long ago that looked at the academic systems review process. I'm sorry. And we are very, very anxious to hear what the university comes up with. I know that there's a Blue Work committee looking at ordinance 8 and so on. Some interesting ideas came up. Some interesting revelations came to the fore as well. But this is high on our agenda going forward. Succession planning and the like. So basically we're looking at creating an HR environment that is certainly much more improved over what exists today. We are committed to ensuring our staff are with us, as a team going forward, because this university has a lot to do. We can't do it with unhappy team members. I just go through very quickly the rest of the presentation that speaks to the metrics, because this is something we are going to, and you will see in the footprints document that some of these are already addressed. Come next year, I've told marketing, I've told planning that the whole format of this presentation will follow these metrics, because I think that the most important thing that we have to do going forward, and if a principal makes a presentation on the campus and how it is done, it has to be done based on measures that have been agreed to. So we're looking at all of these as of next year. On the enrollment, that will show diversity again. And by the way, diversity is something that all the accreditation agencies are harping on. We have to look at it, take a deep dive, instead of just opening the doors to say what can to potential students. Just apply, and based on whatever grade you make, you get in. What many universities are doing is saying, okay, no, divide the space a little bit, look at those who can't even access that, and treat with that. And that is something that we have to do a due diligence on, very deep dive on. The diversity factors, race and ethnicity, gender, full-time, part-time status, geographic diversity. When we went down south, a lot of people came to us and said, we have never thought of coming up north to UWI, but now we have a chance, we can do it. And that was a surprise to me in particular. Religious affiliation and age, that's one of the significant ones. So these are more of them, and this should be in the report for you to go through. I'll speak now in closing about the biennial budgets. The background for it, I mentioned before, years of budget declines, settlement of the UWITV agreements, some campus operationalization, upgrade of campus security, and the lack of liquidity of the university at this point in time. I want to speak very quickly to look at what we did. We had a meeting with our government before the Technical Advisory Committee, or TAC meeting, which was on campus here. And we went in with a budget that asked for roughly $853 million. And of course, they said, are you crazy? So we had a long discussion with them, and this is where I realized that people are actually working, I have to give credit to the government here, much more than I've ever seen before, working in partnership with them to say, okay, look, we know that you want to get this thing done, we're with you, let's look at the budget because we have constraints as well. So the revised budget looks at $761.7 million that will cover the campus operating expenditure in the main. Looking at 2021, looking at $674.9 million, again looking primarily at campus operating expenditure. The arrears are in there, but we discussed with them ways in which we can actually tweak that going forward, because they can make adjustments to their budget as time goes on. This is pre-COVID. I have no idea what's going to happen at this point in time, but this is what the government has agreed to going forward. So with that, these are the amounts that we're looking at. Revised 2021, $674 million. And for 21-22, $692 million. Those are the revised figures. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Chair, for your patience. That is the end of my presentation.
We will turn our attention to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Sir Hilary Beckles, who will deliver remarks.
I wish to begin by, first of all, congratulating you, Madam Chair, on your leadership in providing context for this meeting, to the fact that this is a mission critical meeting. The campus, while it is in a state of retreat from its traditional mandate, given the circumstances before us, that some aspects of the campus, of course, must continue. And the governance aspects, our budgetary circumstances, our students' welfare, we have to continue to pay attention. So, Madam Chair, thank you for that. And also thank you for setting in place intellectually the significance of this, not only at the human level, the level of societies on the whole, but the global economy within which we operate. And I would wish to assure you that UWI, not only at the campus level, St. Augustine, but the entire institution is fully seized of this and will play its role going forward. This is indeed a moment when in which universities can rise and shine and on behalf of their communities. I wish to thank the principal for his determination and his focus, because this is a moment, yes, of perseverance, which will call into being the significance of absolute focus on the issues at hand, and paying attention at a granular level to what is taking place in every corridor, in every room, in every part of the campus's community, as well as keeping a very, very close eye on national and regional developments and the role that the campus plays in all of that. The principal has given us a very comprehensive and detailed report. The issues raised within it are pertinent, relevant, illustrating what we have always known, that St. Augustine campus and campus community is indeed a very complex ecosystem that requires skillful management. The principal and his team, they have been challenged in this year in review in respect of the industrial relations climate, in respect of student security and staff security, the need for curriculum reform, promoting research. And generally speaking, I can confirm that from all I have seen and heard, the principal has demonstrated quite clearly that he has advanced the campus in very significant ways over the year. I'm very impressed with the fact that the campus and the principal and his team, that they continue to use the AAA strategy as a tool, as an instrument for developing strategies, for allocating resources, for making significant management decisions. And the usage of the AAA strategy, which is the university-wide strategy, illustrates the extent to which the principal is not just a good leader of his campus, but he's a team player within the context of the wider university. Because without this adherence and mobilization of the AAA strategy on behalf of the entire university, and he himself has been allocated tasks within the wider UWI that transcend his campus, the role, for example, of being the leader of our digital transformation team. That is the UWI team. So I congratulate him in his use of the AAA strategy, being a UWI-wide team player and helping us all to go forward in this regard. We are all impressed within UWI in regard to the innovation culture that has matured within the campus. The principal gave examples of the Huawei project. He spoke of the UE Ventures project. And all of these are significant in helping to shape what the future campus is going to look like. Of course, we are moving into an era where we are partnering much more closely with the private sector and inviting them to become not only philanthropic partners of the institution, but also investment partners into the institution. We will hear a great deal of this in the future. But importantly, the principal's leadership have shown the importance of aligning the campus so skillfully with the expectations of the government sector and the government leadership, as well as the private sector, and building out the national resolve. Knowing, of course, what we all have agreed, that in the context of the Republic, that the diversification of the economy is a top priority at this time. I wish to thank also the campus bursar, Andrea Hannah, Taylor for her critical role in helping the principal to get through all of this, because we know from the budgetary point of view the challenges the campus has faced and the need to micromanage every cent and give account for every cent of the public revenue, while at the same time keeping an eye on transformation and on effective allocation of resources for development. As oftentimes, you know, financial experts can focus almost entirely upon the management of expenditure, and focus is not oftentimes allocated to transformation and change and imagining the future that we have to move towards. So Bertha, thank you, Deputy Principal, and all of the principal's team. Wonderful work, very good work indeed. Of course, the development of the artery, the magnificent concept of the artery that binds the country, the island of Trinidad, through the north, center, and south, the allocation of a creative vision in which the campus has shown that it can become the backbone of a transformation along that spine, a spine of learning, an artery of research, having an impact on transformation at the economic level, the psychological level. All of this is so very important. And I have said to the principal on more than one occasion that this Central South artery strategy is the most impactful, the most innovative, and in terms of its dimensions, the largest single project that UWI has ever undertaken. I have been around for many a year, and I have seen campuses grow. I have seen all of them move in terms of their student numbers, but also in terms of the physical dimension. But this artery project, taken as an innovation, is the largest single infrastructural teaching and learning project ever undertaken by a campus. And at the end of it, the University of the West Indies in the Republic will be transformed in a positive way. And I endorse your statement that bringing the southern part of the island into play, bringing them into the ecosystem of national development through the artery is indeed very inspiring. And I wish to congratulate you and your team on this. I wish to identify with this as the most significant transformation in higher education in this part of the Caribbean. And you have my absolute undying support in having full completion of this project in as short a time as possible. As the principal spoke and our chairman iterated, we are part of a daily evolving circumstance. 6 weeks ago, principal, colleagues, we were all holding emergency meetings focusing exclusively on our students in Suzhou, China. Our students who are out there in China engaged in the software engineering program, which is one of the most important programs within our university. And we were concerned about them, our partners at the Global Institute for Software Technology, and of course, all of our friends in China. And we were focusing on the issue of how to work with the provincial Ministry of Health, Education, our colleagues and our partner institution, in order to ensure that all went well for our students. But we were also at the same time imagining that that conversation was going to be the precursor for a broader conversation that was heading our way. And that enabled us to begin the process of pre-planning for the arrival of this virus in this part of our world. And therefore, in a sense, UWI has now developed within our DNA management system capacity for global management, because we have now been managing this circumstance in 2 continents, 2 different parts of the world, daily doing so in order to illustrate our concern for our students and our staff, and of course humanity as a whole. So this is the broader context within which we are functioning. I have asked that the next Vice Chancellor's Forum, which will be the third forum focusing on building awareness, indicating the extent to which we within UWI have the science to participate in this process. So we are also in the search of a cure for this. Our scientists are working on it. We understand what the issues are. So yes, we have a management function. Yes, we have a communications function, but we also have a research function in helping to find an answer to this problem as quickly and as possible. And so the next Vice Chancellor's Forum on Friday is going to focus on the two dimensions of this. Yes, there's a science dimension, of course, but there's also a dimension in respect of communication, building capacity, building resilience, and thinking creatively about the world that we are now, in fact, creating before our very eyes, a very new world. And so that forum is going to be called Sickness, Science, and Sovereignty, focusing upon the One Caribbean process, asking questions, are we in the Caribbean approaching this sufficiently collectively? Have we all gone back into our corners to discharge our duties of sovereignty in a narrow way? And to what extent is the plurality of the Caribbean world taken into account? We in the academic community must be a part of the scientific solution, but at the same time, we have to be mindful of how we create within our Caribbean world a management structure that might not be as collective as we would wish. I think the public would wish to hear from the Caribbean on this, from the university on this. The public will wish to hear not only the science from the university, they will also want to hear governance from the university, how we imagine our sovereignty, how we use it, and those kind of aspects. So Principal, your presentation this morning is taking place within multiple contexts. And as we have heard from our chairman, Barbados has now, in a sense, completed that loop in terms of the movement of this virus within the Caribbean family, and certainly within the UWI family, which changes again the context this very morning. And from here, we will all now have to look again at how we are going to proceed in the next week or two. So I fully support, Madam Chair, your perspective that we have now to be in a post-COVID-19 world, in much the same way that we were imagining the Caribbean economy beyond the IMF. We now have to imagine the Caribbean economy beyond COVID-19, the new normals. All of this will now be our imagination going to work to see the full context of our future. And Principal, you are spot on in your presentation. Congratulations to you and your team. Excellent report. Looking forward to the conversation. Well done and congratulations.